to the third in my classical mat series. We're going to be covering another 10 of the exercises today, which I haven't done in the first two classes. So let's get mobilising to start with. Just your feet nice and wide and get some shoulder rolls going, some twiddling of the fingers, some singles maybe a little transference of weight from side to side. Maybe some reaches up, stretching that side seam of your torso, keeping those fingers going. Maybe some wiggling around at the ankle, standing on one leg, swapping sides. One shoulder back at a time, maybe one shoulder forwards at a time. Great, and then let's keep the feet nice and wide. I just realised my bare feet are sticking to this new mat. So reaching the arms up, big swing down and big swing back up again. Relaxing head and shoulders. Big breath out when you go down. Breath in when you return. Fingertips are just brushing the floor each time, knees are going over the toes. Great, and then let's do some loose swimming, nice and relaxed. Soft arms, soft elbow. Making sure that you properly turn the shoulders, the hips and the ankles each time. Keeping the head facing forward so that we get that rotation around the spine, quite nice and relaxed. I'm going to come forwards a little bit, feel myself brushing the wall behind me. And then same thing, but changing the direction. It always gets me a little bit warm, gets that heart rate up, which is great. Perfect, bringing the arms out to the sides of your body and sweeping them forwards and opening out the chest. Rounding the back. So the whole point of our warm-up is to get through to the corners and the edges of our bodies. Go a little bit beyond what you would normally do. Let's maybe have those arms a little bit lower. I'm just noticing the difference now. So when the arms are just low, I don't need to do that pelvic tilt as much. It's more about the shoulders. And then bringing the arms up as we were just now. Now it's much more tucking the pelvis under, taking the weight back onto the heels, opening up the chest, and then just try with the arms higher. See how that feels. That's a little bit tight on the shoulders and the neck maybe, but just another movement to be aware of. Great, let's keep the feet nice and wide. Let's circle one arm up. Follow it with the other one, finish at the side seam of your leg. So with both hands touching that leg and your shoulders turning towards that leg. And then up and over to the other side. Up and over. Breath in as you go up through the top. Breath out when you get to the side. And let's start to turn it into big sideways step and bringing the feet together each time. And last one there. Fantastic, just working that side seam of the torso. Great, standing on one leg, circling the other leg around your hip socket. Hold on to something if you need to, but we're just trying to get a little bit of mobilising going on in this hip joint, preparing the body for our single leg circles. And then, so changing directions both ways. So I went outwards to start with, inwards then. I'm getting a clunk on that hip every time, but that's fine. That's quite normal for that side. Other side is a little bit easier, a little bit freer. Trying to keep your torso fairly still, but having a little bit of an adjustment if you need to, changing direction. Again, we're looking just to get the heart rate up up a little bit, get some blood flow to everything, including those hips. Let's go nice and wide with the legs and have your insteps parallel to start. Popping your hands on your shoulders but lifting the elbows up. Pitching forwards for your hamstring stretch. So just finding that biting point for the backs of the legs. Really important, excuse me, really important to have a decent length in the hamstrings, especially for this classical mat style. Oh, my voice is gone funny now. Legs nice and wide, insteps parallel for our hip hinges forwards to stretch the hamstrings. Popping the hands on the shoulders, elbows lifted, keeping that collarbone in a nice straight line, so basically a straight line from elbow to elbow. Hinging forwards from the hips, find your biting point and then come straight back up again. Just breathe into it a little bit. Check that weight is pitched forwards on the balls of the feet. From the side, I'm really being very aware that I'm keeping my chin tucked in so that the back of my neck is staying nice and long. Very tempting to keep your head looking forwards. I've got my natural curves of my spine. There's no change from here to here or when I come forwards to there. Brilliant. Then let's keep those feet wide. Let's bring the heels in a little bit, and it's the toes then. And taking a nice deep squat. Knees are going over the toes. Equally weighted if you can. Dropping the hips down a little bit lower than your knees. Again, mobilising the hip joint. Keeping our spine in its natural curves. Great, let's take my dance stretches. So feet are even wider than they just were. Really nice and parallel. We're taking one arm up to the ceiling, getting this arm by your ear, turning your shoulders towards the corner, but the hips and the legs stay absolutely facing forwards. Lengthening forwards, getting that hamstring stretched. So from the side, I've got this arm up by my ear, this arm is going to pin by my side. I'm turning towards the corner and then I'm lengthening forwards towards that corner. Holding that there, then relaxing down to hang on to that lower leg. Take your head towards your knee. This is now an even stronger stretch on your hamstrings. Bend the other knee. The stretch should transfer to your inside thigh of the straight leg and across your back a little bit, across the opposite side of the back. Then we're taking the same arm up to the ceiling as the straight leg, making sure that that knee is pushing out over your little toes. Bend both knees, relax in the middle and roll up through the spine, unravelling that spine to come up. Other arm up, turning the shoulders. So this is a movement we're going to replicate when we come down to the floor for a couple of the classical mat exercises. I'm tucking that back arm in by my side. I'm trying to keep this arm up by my ear. If you're here, if you're a little bit higher up on that hamstring, but you're getting the hamstring stretch, perfect, because your spine's in its natural curves. And then relaxing down, hang on to that lower leg, take the head towards the knee. We're still stretching on the back of the leg that you're reaching towards. Then we're going to bend the other knee as deeply as you can. The stretch should completely change to the inside thigh of the leg that you were stretching in the first place. Take the arm up to the ceiling, try and rotate your shoulders round, look past that hand if you can. Bend both knees, relax in the middle. Let's do that one more time each side with some breathing. Breath in and breath out. Hold the position, finish your breathing out. Breath in as you relax down that leg. Hold it there. Breathe out. Try and deepen the stretch a little bit. Bend your other knee. Breathe in. Hold it there whilst you breathe out. Tweak the stretch. Take the arm up to the ceiling with a breath in. Finish your full breath in. Then take a full breath out.
noticing all the different places that are stretching, relaxing in the middle, breath in, rolling up through the spine, breath out, other arm up to the ceiling, last time, turn the shoulders only, breath out, lengthen forwards, hold it there. Breath in as you relax down, hang on to that lower leg, hold it there, breath out, try and deepen the stretch a little bit more. Breath in as you bend the opposite knee, hold it there, breathe out, breath in, arm up to the ceiling, finish off your nice breath in, breathing out in that position, relax in the middle, breath in and breath out to roll all the way up to the top. Wonderful. We're going to take some side steps and curtsy, just as a means of getting down to the floor. If you would like to do your curtsy to get down to the floor, you could also do a shoelace lunge to get down to the floor. I'm going to show you this version first of all. I quite like this anyway, pitching the shoulders forwards, bringing the opposite hand to that front knee forwards. Great. If you're there, you could use that hand down to the floor. You could use both hands down to the floor. You could relax the foot at the back, dropping the knee down, taking your hips back. I've used my hands as well. I'm going to come up in the same way, so coming up in the curtsy, just to do it on the other side. Down with the hand maybe, relaxing the foot, controlling that knee, going down to the floor, sitting back on your hips. We could come out into any position. I'm going to come up again. If you were doing your shoelace lunge, you would go back with that knee. Everything's nice and parallel now. Hands to the floor as well, lowering that knee with control, and then maybe sitting back so you're in the same position as we just were, or when that knee is down, bringing your knees together. I'm going to swap sides, so coming up with my chest, pitching forwards, and then swapping legs all the way down, relaxing that back foot, maybe sitting back. You need to come off to the side unless you want to sit on your heel, which isn't necessarily that comfortable. Maybe bringing the feet together, and then we're going to be on the floor, seated for a roll up. Great, so we're seated on the floor, sitting as upright as you possibly can, with the legs out in front of you. We're going to do the rest of the class actually is the 10 classical mat exercises. Some of them, my variations of them. Some of them I will try and show you the advanced version before we do it, and then give you some adaptations. So we're starting with the roll up, and for this I'm going to use my magic cushion or magic scarf, it's going to be today, and I'm going to sort of fold that up a little bit, but I'm going to show you, I'm just going to leave that to the side. I'm going to show you the difference with me either using that or not. So we want to be seated nice and upright from a 90-degree angle with that lovely spine in its natural curves. We're tucking the pelvis under. I'm just going to keep my feet nice and relaxed. We're rolling down through the spine, vertebrae by vertebrae. I'm really tucked under. I'm continuing to tuck under. Once my head is down, I'm going to stay scooped in that lower back. I'm going to take my arms up above and over my head, keeping the rib cage down. Then I'm bringing my arms up, my hands, arms in front of my face, tucking the chin in. And there's that little bit of a pause for me, a bit of a kink. When I get my shoulders above my hips, I'm going to stack my vertebrae to come and sit up nice and tall. I'm just going to shuffle down the mat a little bit. So that was okay, not great. I'm going to show you the difference with this magic bit of material here. So it's just a little bit of a help. And what happens is from here, once I start to roll back, and as soon as I feel contact with that bit of material or cushion, that little bit of extra lift, it feels like I've got much more control over my spine and over my abdominal wall, if you like. But this is where the magic happens. Bringing my arms up in front of my face, tucking my chin in, there. So much smoother. I don't have that moment when my legs start to lift off. So try it with, try it without. If you're really struggling all the way down and to come back up especially, then absolutely keep that cushion there. Basically until you've re-educated the muscles. I'm going to keep it there for the moment. Another way to do this one would be to have the legs bent, rolling down, which makes it a little bit easier to keep that back rounded. Take the arms back, and then sometimes I get my people, when they can't quite get up that initially, to throw the arms, still rounded, but you throw your arms to your legs to hang on to the backs of the legs, and then that gives you that little bit extra. You could also do it from here. So we're rounding down all the way back, throwing the arms, so that's just with the legs out straight. That's our roll up. A couple of different variations of that. Arms above the head, maybe, keeping the arms above the head so you've got that extra weight. They go back, and yes, a little bit stronger again. Neck pull, it's one I don't do, but hands at the back of the head, elbows are forwards. It's the same thing. I'm not going to show you because I won't be able to demonstrate it very well, but you obviously haven't got that lever of the arms on the neck pull. Otherwise it's the same sort of thing. Great, taking my magic top out of the way. I'm going to round all the way down to get down to the floor. We're coming into our base position for our leg circles. In fact, I'm going to shuffle forwards a little bit. So base position, neutral spine, allow yourself to settle a moment. And then we're taking our leg circles, mobilising in that hip socket. We're going to take one leg up into a knee fold, and then if you can, extend that leg up towards the ceiling. So a nice straight leg. I would like you to straighten out the other leg along the floor and flex that foot. There are a couple of different ways of doing this. You could draw a capital D. So if we're drawing a capital D around the hip, there's a straight line here. Actually, no, the circle goes across the body, and then there's a straight line here. So the leg doesn't basically go out wider than my shoulders. I quite like to do a full circle and actually just try and keep my hips really, really still. So I'm pushing the straight leg that's on the floor, I'm pushing that heel and the back of that calf into the floor a little bit. I've got my elbows on the floor, I've got my fingertips on my hips. The goal is to circle the leg, to make as big a circle as you can without, and just 5 or so in each direction, without any change in that pelvis. No rocking and rolling from side to side. It's quite quaddy. Some people turn the legs out, doesn't make any difference for me. I'm quite reliant on my quads. Maybe it loosens the hip up a little bit, actually, just realising that. Yeah, that's my preferred version. Another version, if that's too strong for you, is just with the straight leg, and if you haven't got the hamstring length, is to bend the knee, keep the leg bent and circle. Imagine you're circling your kneecap. The kneecap is equivalent to your toes. So I'm going to swap over legs, bending the legs back in again. Just reset yourself if you got a little bit twisted. Extend the other leg, flex the foot, draw into your knee fold, and then straight up to the ceiling. So I'm going to do my first set with a parallel leg, because that's how I did it on the other side. So a little bit more challenging for me on this side. 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 in each direction. Check out, how does that feel? I've turned the leg out now. It does feel a little bit more mobile in the hip. The other thing that I'm really working hard on, although I haven't mentioned it, is connecting my rib cage to my hip. So your torso essentially is stable. Trying to keep the collarbone relaxed, shoulder blades equally weighted. Remember the option, the slightly easier option. So this is the same thing.
You're turning that thigh bone around in the hip socket, circling around the hip bone without any rocking and rolling, although I can see a little bit in the monitor going on. It's all very strong. Great, okay, we're going to go for my version of single straight leg stretch. Hopefully hamstrings are warm enough to do this one. We're going to take one leg up to the ceiling. We're going to have two 90-degree angles and pointed feet. I want you to actually block this top leg here at 90 degrees. So don't hang on to the back of the knee or the calf or anywhere. Actually straighten out your arms and block this position with your hands, especially if you've got a reasonable length in the hamstrings. It's very easy to go past that point. So we've got pointed feet. We're switching the legs. 3, 2, 1. Then we're flexing both feet, hanging on to that back of that leg. Now I'm putting it in for a hamstring stretch. So set up with me. So top leg straight, 90 degrees, both feet are pointed, the other foot's hovering off the floor. A neutral spine if you can, neutral pelvis. 3, 2, 1, flex, drawing in and reset for 3, 2, 1, flex and drawing in, reset, 3, 2, 1, flex, drawing in, one more set, 3, 2, 1, flex and drawing in, and have a little relax. Tough on the head and neck, no support for the back of the head and neck there. But that brings us nicely into double straight leg lowers, where the hands are at the back of the head. Interlace fingers, bring the elbows forwards. We're coming up with the upper body. I'm going to show you the advanced version first of all. So 2 straight legs, a neutral spine, clearing your shoulder blades if you can, but that head is nice and heavy in the hands. Elbows are supporting, or arms are supporting, arms and hands are supporting the back of the head and neck. Again, maintaining a neutral if you can. You're lowering the legs towards the floor, opening up this angle at the front of the hips. It is very strong. Really tough. Again, I'm really working hard to stay braced, to not let my lower back shape change. I'm going to have a little rest there. Here's my alternative, which I was doing with my people in my classes this week. Feet and knees together with the legs bent. So in your tabletop position, coming up again, clearing the shoulder blades, just slightly clearing the shoulder blades, trying to maintain a neutral pelvis. Now just take the knees away from the hips. So we start at 90 degrees. We're taking the knees away from that hip joint, away from being directly above the hip. We're not just bending the knee at the knees, so it's not just letting the feet drop. That's a massive cheat, and actually, as you can see, my thighs aren't going anywhere. This is equally strong. Just not quite as tough because you haven't got that long lever. Let's do a couple more here. Keeping the legs in the same shape. Really tough on those abdominals. Everything is shaking a little bit today. I'm going to put those feet down, woo, and have a little breathe. Great, we're coming up for a seated spine twist. So I'm going to stretch my legs out and take my arms up overhead. I haven't got my magic cushion now, but hopefully my muscles are warmed up enough and fine-tuned enough that this is going to be nice and smooth. Tucking my pelvis under, arms up in front. Okay. And that just shows actually how fatiguing this work is on that core. Yeah, so I wasn't quite able to sit up as smoothly as I hoped. I needed my magic cushion. But anyway, okay, so again, sitting upright on those sit bones, spine in neutral, placing your fingers and your thumbs together, fingertips and thumbs together, placing the
thumbs into the breastplate, sitting as tall as possible. Bring your legs together and just flex your feet. If you've got the hamstring length, keep your legs straight. Otherwise, just bend your knees, but keep your feet flexed. Keep your knees at the same height. Keep your nose attached to your fingertips, and we're just turning as far as we can in that thoracic spine, which isn't very far. As long as you keep hips, therefore knees, therefore feet, the same. Equally weighted on both sit bones. Getting a bit grippy in my hip all of a sudden. Yeah. So we're only going as far as the rib cage spine will allow, which isn't very far. That's a shortened version of it. A longer lever version, which you might have seen before. We're going to introduce some breathing and some pulses. So I'm going to keep my feet a little bit further apart and keeping my legs nice and straight. The whole of that upper body is going to move as one unit, but it's not this. It's not the arm moving independently at the shoulder joint. There's a straight line across from hand to hand. It doesn't change. We're going to turn to the side, breathing out, 2, 3, and then breath in to come through the centre. Breath, and back in through the centre. Breath out, breath in. It's really difficult not to let those legs pulse with you. One more each side. Every time you come through the centre, breathing in, growing even taller with that spine. All hard work on the backs of the arms. The backs of the arms, backs of the spine, and especially around the shoulder blades. We're not used to sitting for any length of time in this position, basically, so it's great for the endurance in those muscles. Opening up the legs to yoga mat width apart-ish. So maybe slightly wider than your shoulders. Arms are again out to the side. This is the one that's very similar to our dance stretches that we did when we were standing. I'm going to now turn my shoulders towards this front knee, and then I'm going to reach my arms forwards, reach my little finger towards my little toe, tuck the other arm in at the back, pulsing. 3, 2, 1. In fact, looking behind me as well will feel quite natural. Breath in to change sides, and breath out, and breath in. So the saw, we're adding to that spine twist, the seated spine twist. We're adding this forward stretch. Again, trying to keep both sit bones equally weighted. And coming up. Brilliant, have a little relax. Hip circles is our next one. I'm going to show you the full version, the advanced version. This isn't one that I do, but we're going to do some exercises that I generally do quite often, called hip rolls. So the full version of this is to be seated and with your legs out straight in front of you, leaning back slightly but not collapsing, lifting the collarbone and the shoulders, bringing the legs in and extending them out. This is tough on its own. So I'm going to just let my hands go back a little bit more, and then I'm circling the legs, keeping the legs together, keeping them at the same height, as in I'm not ending up with one leg longer than the other. And the only way to do that is by doing the hip rolls, which I'm about to show you. Great, okay, let's do my 3 versions of the hip rolls. I'm going to face this way for this. In fact, no, I'm going to do the first set facing here. So the easier version, the third version is the most similar to what I just showed you. We're going to lie on our backs, feet and knees together, arms out to the side. Squeeze your feet and your knees together and take your knees from side to side. And you'll notice if you're looking in, if you're not used to doing this one, that the outside foot, my left foot now, comes completely off of the floor. That's because we're basically taking the hip off of the floor as well. Try and keep your shoulders fairly equally weighted. And then rolling from side to side. As you bring the legs back in, think about pulling the rib cage at the back on the opposite side to which the knees have gone. Pull that rib cage to the mat. Pull the rib cage and it will just fire up those obliques, and imagine there's a tow rope from these ribs at the front to that opposite, that furthest knee, and that's what's bringing the legs back. If you happen to be talking, it makes you go a bit. Okay, so now I'm going to change around a little bit, just change my position so that you can see. Next stage of this is to keep your feet and knees together, but to lift your legs in the air. So knees are above the hips, pelvis in neutral, lower back in neutral, arms out by the side exactly as we just were. Taking the feet and the knees from side to side. This is significantly harder to control. If you let those knees go too far, you're going to end up toppling over onto your side. Try not to let the opposite shoulder come off. It will be a little bit unweighted. So as my knees are going to the left, my right shoulder is becoming slightly unweighted. But again, use the ribs at the back and squeeze the knees together to bring the legs back, to bring the hips back. The reason we're keeping our feet and knees together is so that the knees stay at the same height, the feet stay together, the toes stay in the same position, because we're lifting the hip up. We're maintaining a neutral pelvis basically. Disassociating the upper body from the lower body. Sometimes I see this in class where the feet stay in the middle and the knees go to the side. But if you find yourself doing that, you'll also realise that you're shortening on one side of your torso, so you're twisting, rather than both sides of the waist, both sides of the torso stay even in length. Great, last one is here. Straight legs up to the ceiling, feet are staying, my toes are staying on the same level, my legs are squeezing together. Harder still, so this is a side to side straight line as opposed to a circle, which is the classical mat version. But it's the same action, keeping the legs together, letting the pelvis move. Have a little go, let's have a little go at the advanced, not the advanced one, but the full version. So if this is too much to be here, up on your hands with your chest lifted, and we're circling here, and it really is quite strong. The circle is as big as you can cope with and control, changing direction after about 3. You might find it more comfortable to come onto your elbows. If you're onto your elbows, keep the chest lifted. Same thing, pelvis goes with the legs. Chest lifted, collarbone open, it's very strong. And coming in there. Brilliant. Staying sitting up for leg pull up. We did leg pull down in the previous class, which is basically the plank and lifting the leg. This is slightly different. We're working the back line of the body. leaning back with your legs out straight and then slightly apart, and just let them naturally turn out. This will help with this movement. Just slightly apart, let them naturally turn out at the hip. Fingers are facing outwards. The first movement is just to switch on your buttocks, lift your hips up into this nice straight line. So you can feel why it's working the back line of the body. I can feel it around my shoulders, my triceps, buttocks are activating, hamstrings are activating. Because I put my feet into that turned out position, if I face this way, so my legs are slightly turned out. When I come up, I end up on the outside edge of my feet, and that feels quite comfortable. If your feet are really parallel, there's going to be quite a lot of pressure through your heels, which is why I've gone for the turned out version. The add-on to this, hips are up, you're then lifting one leg at a time. This is what your leg pull up, facing your body facing up towards the ceiling. The goal is to keep the pelvis really stable. You will feel it all on the backs of the legs. 6 or so alternating. If that doesn't suit you, maybe try lifting the hips, keeping the hips up, drawing the leg in, keeping the leg in turn out, and the foot on the floor, but trying to keep it fairly unweighted. Drawing in and releasing, drawing in and releasing. That's made my mat rock up. And relaxing there. Good job. Number 8. No, that was number 8. Number 9 is our kneeling side kicks. So I'm going to square myself up to the camera a little bit more. Kneeling up in the middle of your mat. Knees together. We're going to take one leg out to the side, stay nice and central over this leg, and then reaching the other arm down to the floor. So the hand is in line with the knee, which is also in line with the foot. I'm going to take the other arm up to the ceiling. Beautiful straight line across my shoulders, and then just bending that top hand in to put it behind my head and thinking of the elbow going up towards the ceiling. Driving the hips forwards a little bit, keeping that side leg, I just realised I was going a little bit into turnout, but keeping that side leg parallel, facing forwards, and then we're lifting and lowering, which again is very strong. Ooh, I'm getting cramp in this hip for some reason today. I was training at the beach this morning. Maybe I did something then, and now I'm getting cramp in my foot. It's all going on. Whoa! I'm going to keep that foot flexed for a moment, lifting and lowering. Great. Coming in, have a little rest down. If you can come to this position, perfect. Always maintaining that sort of thing. Stretch out to the side with the other leg, down to the floor. Depending on body proportions, you might want to make a fist here, that might be a little bit more comfortable, or you might want to have your hand on a yoga block or something. Just find out whatever's comfortable for you. Straight arm up to the ceiling, drive the hips forwards, bend that top arm, bend the elbow, so lifting the elbow up towards the ceiling, and then we're lifting and lowering that leg to the side. This is the easier version compared to the leg sweeps, just lifting and lowering. Keeping those hips driving forwards, shoulders stacked one on top of the other, really trying to work at the side seam of the torso. Wonderful, coming in. Let's come to sit back on our hips into the mermaid position. So I've just tucked under my underneath leg, and I've rested the other one on top. It's quite comfortable-ish. If this isn't comfortable for you, you could have your legs out in front of you in a long frog. Yeah, or you could sit on a yoga block or something. And we're just going to take some side stretches. I'm going to add on to this a little bit, hanging on to this side shin, that's the word I was looking for. I'm going to take my arm up to the ceiling and I'm going to stretch over sideways. This is a little bit frustrating, you don't really go very far. Then I'm going to put that hand down and go over the other way. And I can bend my arm a little bit just to try and get this side seam stretch going over. This one won't go much further each time. This time I'm going to take my hand to the floor out a little bit further. I can quite comfortably come down on my elbow, focusing on lifting, using the sides of the body to come up. One more, so third one, reach out a little way, come down onto that elbow, stretch the arm overhead. If you just look up, you should be able to see in quite nicely into your palm. Keep that arm nice and rounded, and then I'm just going to get you to drop the top shoulder down and look behind you. Look over that shoulder behind you. This is half of the croissant stretch that we sometimes do, and then stack the shoulders again. Shoulders are parallel to the floor or horizontal, and then shoulders are vertical. One more. Shoulders horizontal, shoulders parallel, watching that you're not collapsing in on that underneath one. And then, I really like this change to the other side. Sweep the arm down, take your hands behind you, bring your legs together, extend them out. There's our hip circle position, and then ta-da, we are on the other side. So lifting the arm up and reaching, oh that's tough. Hand on the floor, just a little bend in the arm to start with. Breathing nice and deeply all the way through. Trying to keep those hips fairly still. This time I'm going to stretch that arm out a little bit more. I'm going to come down onto my elbow. I'm thinking of pushing this side seam away. Coming up. Just relax the shoulders down here. Really try and relax. Don't worry that it doesn't go very far. Last one. All the way down and over. Lift your head up and look into the palm of that hand. If it's not there, put it there. So nice rounded arm, and then drop the shoulder down, the front shoulder down, keeping that arm curved. Look over your shoulder and then lift the shoulder. So you're looking forward, stacking the shoulders one on top of the other. Shoulders are parallel to the floor, horizontal, then lifting that top one to be vertical. Last one, might have done an extra one on this side, and then horizontal, no vertical shoulders, sweeping the arms down, hands behind you, and a little extension, and we're there. Well done. So that was number 10, Mermaid. Great job. We did 10 of the classical mat. You may or may not like them. I'm not sure whether I enjoy them or not, but we will have a little look at them over the next couple of classes as well and see all the different variations that we're doing. Maybe just have a bit of a wiggle about to finish. Whatever feels right for you. I'm going to do some spine circles on all fours. I'm going to curl my toes under, lift my hips, push through my heels, stretching my calves. I'm going to take some bear walks. Just nice and flowing. Maybe big toes together, open up the knees, stretch the arms forwards, take a slightly mad sway from side to side with that chest. Rolling up through the spine, hips on your heels, coming up. Whew. Well done. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you again soon.